Whenever you see a Minecraft base that looks like this, you would probably assume that it was made in creative mode. But what if I told you that this massive base was made entirely in survival mode?
Stark.
And not only that, but it was made millions of blocks out on the oldest Anarchy server in Minecraft.
Voll geil.
What you are looking at is Mew Megabase, one of the best kept secrets on 2B2T. At least it was, until it was griefed 4 months ago. The history behind this base is pretty
sad.
insane.
Imagine, jemand grieft sowas. Wie frustriert musst du im Leben sein? Real Talk, wie frustriert musst du im Leben sein, um sowas einfach auf so einem Server zu gehen, bist du, das grief ich jetzt weg.
It is the combined effort of 36 people living in secrecy for almost 3 years.
I love you, 3. He loves us, chat. Aww.
3 years. The only reason the base was even found was due to an exploit. The amount of building and terraforming that went into this one single base is simply unprecedented. It makes sense.
Wie lange muss das gedauert haben, um das hier rauszubauen?
Base is simply unprecedented. It makes sense that on a server that pushes Minecraft to its absolute limits, that a survival base would be pushed to its limits. Today I'll be telling you the story of Mew Megabase, how it was created, and how before it was griefed,
3/4 Stunde dauert, dann ist fertig.
it was the builders that had the last laugh. We have a lot to discuss today, so let's get started. Every piece of information used in this video today was taken directly from 2B2T legend Burnsy. You may remember him as the leader of the Nether Highway group that dug
ja, ich erinnere mich, genau. Der Leader from der Nether Group, genau.
first Nether tunnel all the way to 2B2T's world border. Burnsy made a detailed post about the history of the base and has given us the okay to make this video today.
Aww.
Our story begins in 2017.
Schon irgendwie cool.
One of the biggest bases on the server at the time,
Kinda cool.
Summermelon, was griefed, which left many of the builders there homeless. It was around this time that the X-Highway group had also finished their dig
So
to the
sad.
world border, including digging to the Positive X corner. So there were 2 groups on the server that had nothing to do. 2 longtime players.
Ich muss ich gerade random wieder dran denken, an diesen ultra awkward Moment im ersten Moment, wenn ihr Leute kennenlernt, so online, ihr habt so Gaming-Homies und dann geht ihr alle auf die Gamescom und ihr trefft euch alle zum ersten Mal und es ist so krank awkward und ihr seht die Person und ihr seid euch so unsicher, ist es die Person, ist es die nicht? Dieser ultra awkward Moment, ich muss mir gerade einfach vorstellen, wie es bei denen auch war, wenn die sich so alle, wenn die so jahrelang zusammen bauen und sich dann zum ersten Mal so IRL auf der Gamescom treffen. Dann guckt man so weg. Nee, ich glaube, er ist es nicht. Doch, er ist es, aber es ist zu unangenehm anzusprechen. So, übelst so awkward. Ich erinnere mich 2015 oder so, oder 2016. 2015? Nee, 2016 war meine erste Gamescom und es war so, oh, das war so awkward. Das ist voll cute.
And Oftopia convinced both of these groups to work together on a new project, one that would be one of the most ambitious in 2B2T history. A gigantic build that would be based off the lost
2B2 klingt einfach wie so ein Schachzug. 2B, okay, 2T, eher nicht so, aber...
Mew in real-world mythology. This project was going to be a massive undertaking, and a great deal of building supplies would be needed. It just so happened that some of the players that had been brought on board for the project had discovered an item duplication exploit that was not known by the public, the chunk dupe. Since they were the only ones that knew about it, they could dupe any building material they wanted without fear of the exploit being patched by the server's admin, Housemaster. With
Das ist so Nerd-Shit, aber ich feier's. This is so nerdy.
Players arriving at a secluded location millions of blocks out, and with a powerful new exploit, the scope of the project increased dramatically. The actual build site of Mew was
ja, es gibt ein Foto, was so geedit ist von unserem Hausmeister mit so 8 Armen, wo er so in jedem Arm so ein anderes Gerät hält. So geil. So random, wirklich.
Further out in the millions due to an accidental leak of the coordinates, but this second location proved secure, and construction began. In order to keep the chunk dupe a secret, only select members of the project were allowed to know about it. So a spreadsheet system was used for builders to request materials, and sure enough, those materials would mysteriously appear in shulker boxes. All of this coordination was done on a single floating platform above a massive...
In
jungle biome, which would be the home of the base. The server's greatest civil engineer, Thieves and Sound, the same person responsible for the Southern Canal, Obsidian Wall, and Great Spawn Trench, was brought on board for the project, and he brought several of his comrades with him. Now,
das ist cute. Schauen Sie sich das ganze Video an, aber das ist schon cool. Wie lange die gebraucht haben. Oh, holy shit, wie lange die gebraucht haben müssen. Ach du Kacke. Das ist krank. Das ist legit krank. Dass sie den ganzen Berg gebaut haben per Hand. What the fuck?
Construction of the mountain began. Because the mountain and the plains it rested on were hollow, the builders had accidentally created the largest man-made cave system in the server's history.
Yeah,
so mobs spawning down there became a problem. With multiple players working on it at the same time, it took over 2 months to build. But after all the hours had been put in, the main centerpiece of the base was complete. The builders
Wirklich crazy.
now had a blank canvas that they could use to create whatever they wanted. This is where the base truly started to take form. The Pokemon Mew became an unofficial mascot of the
würde mich mal interessieren, wie viel Zeit da drin steckt. Wie viele Stunden.
base, since its name had the same pronunciation. Builder Drud14 would create a massive man-made swamp biome with a giant mushroom and village underneath, as well as a Greek-themed area in the base. The terrain surrounding the mountain was custom-made, with different builders contributing. Scribblefox was responsible for the mesa section, as well as several villages surrounding the mountain. At this point, it was easy to forget that you were on 2B2T. Aaron Alvin created a giant build called the Temple of the Melon Goddess, which itself was more impressive than entire bases on 2B2T. Things were progressing smoothly, but in October of 2018, almost an entire year after construction of the base began, the item dupe that the builders had been using in secret was finally discovered by the public. This meant that Housemaster was likely to patch the dupe very soon. But Thieves, finally learning of the dupe's existence, was able to come up with a design that would allow the dupe to be performed at a much faster rate. Up to 37 shulker boxes per second could be duplicated with this design.
What the fuck?
By the time the dupe was eventually patched, over 200 million items had been created at Mew. The stashes that held these items were so massive that they actually began server's history. Griefing the entire base block for block was going to be impossible, so the damage from the grief was greatly reduced. The coordinates went public, Burnsy made his post about the base, and soon others began arriving to see this massive secret for themselves. One of these players, though, Hunbao, was smart enough to take a world download of the flooded base with only minor damage done to it. From there, another player, Universius, went into single player with the download and repaired much of the base on his own, removing the flooding and making it look just like the images that Burnsy had posted. The world download was nearly identical to the real thing, with about 90% of the base restored. As someone who has been documenting 2B2T history for a long time, I can say that even though the base was not fully completed, Mew Megabase is possibly the greatest base ever built on the server.
Nice.
Will there ever be a base to top it? I guess we'll see. Well, if you enjoyed today's history lesson, consider subscribing to the channel. It would mean a lot to me. Also make sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram to stay.
So schlau. Jemand hat sich eingeloggt in einem Account von einem Bilder und die haben das ganze Bild unter Wasser gesetzt, um das Grief festzumachen. Das ist richtig pfeifert. Aber wenn jemand mit Hacks reingeht, dann ist trotzdem. Dann müssen die schon ein gutes Anti-Cheat haben trotzdem. Aber crazy. Ich habe noch nie von dem Server gehört. Ist einfach dann so eine riesengroße Welt und jeder kann halt darauf machen, was er will. Quasi. Ja, voll böse, voll mies, wenn manche Leute dann so das so ausnutzen und dann halt briefen. Da hacken viele, ja, kann ich mir vorstellen.